Anu, hi, good to have you with us. How have you been?
Very well, man. How are you? Long time.
I'm long time, Anu. It's a pleasure to have you, and and this is our first session interaction recording in the New Year's. So wish you a very happy New Year.
Oh, same
Uh,
to you.
and we sincerely hope this one is much better for each one of us. It brings in more happiness, prosperity, value creation for each one of us and all our stakeholders and everybody in general.
And better health,
Last
hopefully, from
and better
Omicron.
health, yes. Last couple of years have been very, very, very difficult, right? But I think each one of us at a personal level. But I know it's like I said, right? It's a pleasure to have you with us. This is a session that I was genuinely looking forward to. Largely because we as people have changed. What started in 2020 and what carried in 2021. The way we were essentially tuned to live. I think that has changed, right? I think we've
Right.
become a little more responsible in terms of how we live, around
Absolutely.
our health, around our households, right? And I think, for example, greenery, plants, I think has become a part of all of what we do, right? And like I said, right, this becomes an important conversation because we've just, as human race, we've become just so much more respectful towards nature, in general, right?
Absolutely.
And I think which has
Yes.
always been important, becomes all the more important as we go forward. So with that, I think I'd love to start this conversation with a quick round of introduction. Many people know about you already. You've been out there, and we dive into the session from today.
All right. So I am Anu from Nurturing Green. We started Nurturing Green way back in 2010 when I was in Austria, and I gifted my mom, a bouquet from Ferns and Petals, and I called her the next day, and she said, "Beta,
Right,
wo to fake diya, rakhna tha kya?"
right,
And that's where the yo moment came in. That instead of gifting a bouquet, how about you gift a plant?
sure,
And that was just the beginning. And then from there on, of course, the journey has been enriching from gifting to decor to landscaping. We have been into
right,
multiple categories now.
uh-huh,
Uh, I think last year has been really eventful. Houseplant saw more searches across the world than it saw in the last 9 years of
right,
our existence, cumulatively. So that's a fact that post COVID, I think people either were cooking or gardening. Uh, and we saw a great jump in the online. Of course, we were already planning to go online as a business. We realized that the world is going digital,
right,
and we have to go digital. And that's where we are. Today 40% of our revenue is coming from online, which was pre-COVID 7-8%. So I think that's a one big jump which has happened. And I think next 2 years we'll see probably 80% of the business coming online. So yeah, that's for the Nurturing Green, and I'm again
well,
starting up uh, with another business called Zamia. It's
right,
the world's first hyperlocal marketplace. We want to
lovely,
be the Zomato of gardening. We
wonderful,
realized that being Nurturing Green as a brand, you can't solve the problem which you can solve as a platform.
right,
Uh, and we want to be that marketplace platform which Amazon or many other people are trying to do are not able to do.
right.
So hopefully that sort of becomes big in the next 3-5 years for us.
Interesting, interesting. And we're going to talk more about that, right? But I think both of these things go hand in hand, right? I think it starts from that interaction, right? And I think then kind of you build it up with the platform, you support it with the platform. I think that's possibly what you're trying to achieve in the process. And we're going to talk, like I said, more about it. But Anu, I think I typically would have brought in this question a much later in our conversation, right? But I think it becomes so much more pertinent, right? Given the shift that has happened, right? More at, of course, the mindset level. Um, but in the first part of this question, I want to address the business side of it, right? Now, what we've experienced in the last 2 years, right, with COVID, with pandemic, is a massive digital shift, right? A massive digital adoption, something that we never saw. We continued to be. I think everybody we spoke with, right, continued to have those physical challenges, right? And we've been a very, very large fragmented economy, which operated many levels, multiple levels, so on and so forth, right? So we're not, we cannot have one solution, which is applicable to the masses, right, or to the larger set of audience. We'll have to bring in those intricacies. We'll have to weave in those nuances, so on and so forth, right? Now, what last 2 years has done to many people is that it's brought in, it's given them a possibility to communicate with their people better, right? A lot of businesses are happier largely because the ability to communicate has just become so much more transparent, so much more effective, and so much more direct, right? Which did not necessarily
Right.
exist, right? How do you see that, right? How has that changed you? Because you for the like I said right at the beginning of a conversation, you were essentially a product of a very offline play.
Yes.
There was a massive
Yes.
experiential piece that kind of existed, right? What's happened at Nurturing Games in the last 2 years, right? How quickly do you react to the situation? And I'd love to know a little more about the consumer mindset as well, right? Given that they had time, disposable income, planting and greenery became a very strong constant, right? Across this and I think gifting also, for example, changed, right? People, like I said,
Yes.
right, have become a little more responsible. What's happened in the last 2 years? I'd love to understand from you.
So from a consumer perspective, Ashu, I think there's a massive paradigm shift which has happened, and I don't think it's a fad or it will sort of reverse
Sure.
post COVID sort of changes.
Mhm.
What has happened is that, as you said, we as humans sort of have started appreciating nature, right?
Mhm.
We have become more responsible. We've seen the havocs which nature sort of can bring
Sure.
into our lives, uh, and we're more respectful towards it. I think this
Mhm.
is this is this is not just happened in India. We're seeing global. So a lot of our global competitions have seen almost 400, 500% jump in their sort of numbers, uh, because people sort of wanted to now have house plants. And I think one big shift which you saw was, earlier a TG used to be from 32, 35 to 45, 50, right?
Mhm.
And now it has suddenly shifted from 25 to 40.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of millennials which are sort of getting into it.
Sure.
So people like you and me, or even the younger generations, like who have been living into urban households, have high stress levels in the current workplaces, uh, and wants to sort of use plants as either decor pieces or something to sort of de-stress in their life.
Sure.
And that's a big jump, and that sort of comes out if you look at the interest levels on Google, and look at the data from those perspective. As I said, the search keywords on houseplants uh, is more last year than it was in a cumulative last 9 years of the business.
Right.
That's a 900 probably jump on it, right? So that's a huge crazy volume which people have started doing it,
Mhm.
because it was, you go to any part of the country and everybody wants to have sort of
Sure.
nature. So that's one big shift happened. Second big shift happened was, as you said, it's an offline category, right?
Right.
It's just a house plant giving number. It's a 26,000 crore category today. Just the house plants, and Amazon will do, or all the marketplaces online will do just 1,000 crore like this year.
Mhm.
Last year they must be doing 250, 300 crores,
Sure.
which means that 99% of the sort of market is still unorganized. Yeah, you go
Mhm.
to the nursery, you sort of pick up a plant, and
Right.
you just buy from there. But that has sort of shifted now across, that people are okay to buy plants online. Amazon is doing 1,000 crores from
Right.
gardening category, so that's not too big a number, but still a number which sort of they see 100% jump this year also, which means they're
Right.
targeting 2,000 crore in the coming year, which is again a bigger sort of a jump for their base. So
Sure.
we will keep seeing this 26,000 crore category sort of growing first,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of chunk gonna go sort of digital or online.
Right.
And then that's one big paradigm. And we sort of understood this pattern in 2017-18 itself,
Sure.
and started working towards it. And
Mhm.
good part we today sustain is because we sort of took this trend in 2017-18,
Sure.
because otherwise 100% of our revenue sort of coming from offline,
Mhm.
and offline malls didn't open up till August last year, so
Right.
practically there were 5 months which were sort of, there's no business coming out of it.
Sure.
It
Sure.
was only online sort of which helped us sustain the business. And today, I mean next month with ART days coming and this big sale coming in,
Sure.
we are sort of one of the biggest sort of players across in the gardening category, with Amazon
Right.
to do it. And D2C also, so as you said, with D2C, the good part is you interact with your customers so nice. You know what they want.
Right.
You just directly talking across
Mhm.
what their problems, and you can sort of do a quick fix in terms of the solutions also. So
Sure.
with Amazon, we realize that 500 se upar nahi bikta, unko sasta plant chahiye. That's a mass audience. Do we
Right.
want to do 3,000 pieces a day, a lakh pieces a month of plants? Just
Mhm.
do five items, less than 500, scale it. That's what we're doing at Amazon. At
Okay.
our own website, people want experiences. They want better pots. They want more
Right.
design ideas.
Sure.
So we do that. We have My Plant, My Baby, where people want to know, ma'am, how do I take care of this plant?
Right.
Or where do I put this across on my center table? Rakhoon ki bahar rakhun? I don't know about it. So with our website, we're trying to D2C. We're trying to focus becoming become more niche in terms
Mm-hmm.
of a higher AOV, and
Mm-hmm.
also give an experience to the customer. So
Right.
Lucky Bamboo खरीदना है तो Amazon पे खरीद लो ₹300 का. But if you want to buy a luck sort of a theme based
Sure.
product, then you go to the website and buy from there.
Very interesting. Like a bunch of questions coming out of that one, Anu, right? But I'll try and sort of sequentially address each one of them. I think one of the points that you highlighted, right, and I think that's something that I think each one of us has experienced, firsthand, right? Be it while growing up, be it currently in our households, right? Is that a large part of this is very very fragmented, right? A very small percentage of this entire market. I think less than I think possibly 5% is essentially which is in a
Max.
digital medium, you know, is
Yes.
visible, trackable, which is about 1,000 crores is what you alluded to, right?
Yes.
26,000 crores is what you mentioned at a larger level. My sense is the number is going to be much higher than that because a lot of
Yes.
unregistered
Yes.
sales goes into India, right?
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I know what's going to institutionalize this, right? Because what I see around me is that a lot of these players, which are smaller nurseries, right, are constantly coming up, right? There is
Yes.
no stopping of that, right? Now, what that essentially means is, and my understanding at a distance is that, that entire shift is not necessarily happening online, right? People still need an experiential element. They still need to and want to go to that nursery, want to feel that. It becomes important for them to communicate. Something that you also sort of highlighted that, on the website that you're trying to sort of create, right? But that experiential activity still is required, right? It essentially means that you will have to be at the last mile. You'll have to engage with the audience there for better conversions, right? And for them to become part of the formal ecosystem. They're motivated themselves, right? But that confidence, that nudge is something which is required, and that is only possible with a physical
Yeah.
establishment, right? Now,
Yeah.
does that mean going forward, one, it'll be a hybrid play, because experiential is a critical component. Second, is that this could put in a lot of pressure and weight on you because none of these practices are standardized, right? What's the way forward, right? I mean, how do you see this entire space evolve going forward, given that there is a natural demand, right? And you're absolutely right. This is not one of those categories which is going to go back, to pre-COVID era. I think this is a significant shift which has happened, and people are going to stick to it and continue it. And plants have become a part of their life, right? What's your sense of this complexity, which is around around the offering that you were doing or the institutionalized offering which is happening in the ecosystem?
Sure. Sure. So two parts to it. One, let me talk from a nurturing green perspective. So we realized that it's going to be an omni-channel play, that's for sure, right? I was talking to Mohit yesterday from Moms and Company. We were there in one of the gatherings. Said, "Yaar, hum to offline ja rahe hain."
Right.
Yeah, the world is talking online. Everybody. I was talking noise. He was there. Gaurav was there. He said, we're doing 1,000 crores, but we're going offline. I said,
Right.
like the world is going online. You're saying, it's you can't survive just with on one channel. Yeah.
Right.
You have to be an omni-channel. That's for sure. There's no denying on it. It's just that Amazon will open an online and then go to an offline stores,
Sure.
buying Whole Food, different of these offline channels, versus shopper stops types of brands or home centers will go offline and then go online. And destination for everybody has to be omni-channel, is what I believe in. Of course, everybody will have a different play and their own playbooks across how they interact with their customers. For us, we've realized one clear fact that offline takes a lot of efforts. It's not easy. Right? We are within 16 cities. We have 100 plus outlets right now also running. And I know it's a nightmare, the amount of people we have. Today, if I dream that from 100 stores, can we do 1,000 stores? I don't have the bandwidth to do it.
Right.
My team doesn't have a bandwidth to do it. But can I think from an online, from a 2,000 orders per day, can I take it to 20,000 orders? I think we can.
Sure.
Right. It can be controlled sitting in my office here in Noida somewhere, right? But I can't do it from the offline way. Of course, as you said, the experience is very important. Right. And that's why this omni-channel approach, we are trying to open another concept called a cart, which is a routes by cart. We realized that COVID में offline में malls बंद हुए थे, तो customer तो जा नहीं पा रहा था हमारी जगह पे. So let's try and make a model कि हम जाते हैं customer के पास. And this is what has been happening at scale also. So if you look at how the ice cream sort of scaled their model, they got this carts around, right?
Interesting.
And if you look also at the current way you purchase the plants, या तो आप nursery जाते हो, या आप online जाते हो, या आप mall में जाते हो, या most of the time वो ठेले वाला होता है जो आपके गेट के बाहर होता है, and you buy pick it
Sure.
something like
Absolutely.
that, right?
Right.
We want to innovate that sort of a framework there.
Very
Beautiful
interesting.
card, eco-friendly card, green card. Let's say EV is there, which is running and which is all tech integrated in terms of the
Right.
inventory.
Very
And
interesting.
you just order on the website, and you can just pick it from down there below you. So you can see that product if you want to buy that, right? So you ordered a bamboo and you say, I want to see that. Just go down to any of the carts which are running around in your sector. Just see the product and pick it yourself if you want to do it,
Interesting.
right? So that's one model we are sort of scaling up with Nurturing Green, and we say that's where the good play of online offline will come in, which is
Sure.
the convenience of scalability on online and the experience of an offline can come in. That's
Right.
one part of it. But you also realize, as a brand, we have limitation in terms of the number of SKUs, right? So
Right.
customer today needs a 10 rupees ka, cutting, and they need a 4 lakh rupees ka,
Sure.
a balcony makeover also.
Mm-hmm.
So we realized as a brand, we can't fulfill that. It's only as a platform we can do it. So we thought, let's digitize the nurseries, right? So today, if you look at the basic problems, you don't know the discovery. That's a bigger problem in your nursery,
Sure.
right? So price discovery nahi hai, or
Right.
range discovery nahi hai. So you don't know a plant is actually 100 rupees or not,
Sure.
or is it $1,000, right?
Right.
Whatever he says, you believe. You don't have a range because they have limited sort of options there. They don't guide you in terms of the knowledge. So you don't know, is it an indoor plant, an outdoor plant,
Right.
pani zyada dena hai, nahi dena hai, low
Sure.
maintenance hai, heavy
Sure.
maintenance hai. The whole problem of putting that experience कि वो गंदे से plant अपनी अच्छी गाड़ी में रखना, फिर उसको dry clean कराना, फिर गाड़ी को फिर उसको ऊपर लेके आना, that
Right.
whole experience is broken, right? And we're trying
Sure.
to solve that experience by bringing these nurseries digitized through Zanya.
Okay.
So imagine now Ashu can order, read about the plants, see the
Right.
discovery of let's say he wants to buy and travel a palm, which he saw it on Instagram.
Sure.
Just search on it, look at the prices of different nurseries across, buy it, the best ones, and gets delivered at his home within a few hours.
Right.
And which Amazon will never be able to do it because they're not hyperlocal, right?
Interesting.
Plants at scale cannot be scaled without a hyperlocal approach. So you can't send a plant from Delhi to Bangalore at scale. Right. And that's what has been one of the challenges as we were scaling the Nurturing Green model also. So we had now 3 warehouses, and we're now making 4 or 5 more warehouses.
Sure.
Because if somebody orders from Chennai, it should not go from Delhi. It should actually not go from Bangalore. It should go from Chennai itself. Right. So those dark warehouses, something as a concept we're sort of building across now with Nurturing Green scaling up. But that comes automatically if I can digitize the Chennai nurseries there, right? And you can select from there. So it's more self. So that's the play we want to do.
Please, I think that's very, very interesting, right? I know, but one thing that you kind of come across, right? I'm big into plants, right? I mean, I love plants, right? I mean, buying for home, gifting, I think all of it, right? But one big sort of a problem is, and my sort of a natural penchant towards a nursery is because you get amazing prices, right? Whatever said and done, I think we'll still be we're still price conscious, right? When it comes to the kind of spends that we make, right? And that's essentially how we've been brought in, and that's the mass that we're talking about, right? In India. As soon as we talk of institutionalizing a lot of this, right? For example, say as soon as I go to a home store or a home center and want to buy a plant from there, I find it to be priced at say $6.99 or $7.99. I find it to be expensive, right? But as soon as I go to this nursery, right, largely because that possibly the owner has low cost of operations, right? No fixed structures, right? They're possibly using the land there to sort of grow and basically manage their plantations, so on and so forth, right? It just they're able to pass on that the less of overheads, right? In there, they're able to factor it in the pricing and then offer it to you at a substantially lower price, right? Visibly small. Now that is, that becomes a natural sort of a go-to, right? So while there is institutionalized offering which is happening, you still want to go back to the nursery, right? What happens in an environment like that, right? So for example, when you digitize these nurseries, right? I mean, does that mean that the price discrepancy that exists, right? Or say lack of transparency which exists will possibly go when everything is going to become expensive, right? Is that a correct way of understanding it? Or do you think they will continue to operate the way they do? This is just by bringing them online, right? So that more options are available. The competitiveness will still be there. What's your sense of it? How do you see it?
So let me ask you one question. Have you ever bought a phone without knowing its camera resolution?
No.
Have you ever bought an AC without knowing its tonnage?
No.
Have you bought a plant uh, without knowing number of leaves in it?
I think these are different comparisons, right? This is not a standard. I mean, a plant is not a
Yes.
standard product, right?
Yes. No, it's not. It's because it's unorganized.
Right.
Right. दाल जो है आटा जो है आज से पहले 20 साल पहले अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड ही था आशीर्वाद आटा आने से पहले हम
Right.
तो चक्की में जाते थे वहां पे वो
Right.
गेहूं देखते थे पिसवाते थे कभी कुछ आता था कभी मोटा आता था
Right.
right and ITCs of the world and Ashirvads of the world sort of standardize that
Sure.
right because agriculture got standardized because of these guys
Right.
right today you buy a chips or you buy a Haldiram's chole bhature you'll have the same taste every time right because
Sure.
they've standardized the supply chain.
Sure.
This is what we're doing at Nurturing Green. One, awareness of to the customer. So Ashu should know that 25 leaf ka aglaonema is different from a 5-leaf aglaonema. Hai dono hi aglaonema.
All right.
But the price might be 2x of a difference.
Sure.
Right now, the customer don't question because he doesn't knows about it. Right?
Okay.
But if you go to to buy an AC and he gives you, the salesman tells you, you buy this for 25,000. Like 25,000 for what?
Right.
For a 2-ton or a 1-ton?
Sure.
And that's where you question it, right? And this is what
Right.
we're trying to do. One is that awareness, which will happen in our industry, which I see it because more and more people like us, or Ugao and a lot of other brands will start coming and they will start sort of, educate the customers in terms of the quality or, what to ask for. Second is with Zamia, we feel we should be able to democratize this is what's the idea, right? And which is Zomato sort of wonderfully did it for, let's say, food.
Sure.
Right? Today, if you want to order a food, it's so easy to do it, and the price discovery is really easy. The price hasn't gone up. I mean, they might have gone up a bit, but you don't care, right? So if at scale, if I start charging you 30-40 rupees extra also for that whole convenience we bring in on the table, you say, okay, I don't mind giving that sort of a price.
Sure.
Right? Because your price discovery will be very cheap. So Zamia will give you that whole thought of yes, sasta and value mil raha hai, because nurseries has always had that perception that sasta milta, right?
Right.
With Nurturing Green, for donkey years, we have always made a sort of commitment that we'll always be a upper middle audience and a niche segment on it.
Right.
We sort of changed that mindset of lately, right? Because beyond a certain point, if you go beyond 20-30 crores sort of a top line, you want to go beyond that. I think if you want to grow at 10, 15, 20%, you can keep doing it for next 10 years with the same audience. But if I say that if you want to really scale that up, and with Amazon, let's say, you want that 200, 299, so if you go to a home center now, you will see a 699 one. Sure. But if you go to Amazon, you will see a 299 also.
Right.
And that's a new brand we have sort of launched called Roots, which is the same whole philosophies of giving a value for money. It's like MI of the phones.
Interesting comparison. Right.
And the iPhones of the phones, right? Is sort of Nurturing Green, and here we want to. So what we foresee is people like Annu and Ashu will say, okay, I'll have 2 plants of Nurturing Green and maybe 15 of Roots coming in. So my center table to ek acha ceramic planter chahiye mujhe. But for my bedroom or for my washroom, I'll buy the Roots one, which is, good healthy plant for 199 to 99 as a thought process.
Right.
And that's what we sort of are targeting as a base. And this thought has been really successful for us post-COVID, especially.
Interesting.
If you look at, we have the highest number of bestsellers on Amazon. We have 6 bestsellers as we are talking, and we're targeting 15 bestsellers. And there are 16 categories in whole of gardening as on date.
Interesting. I know, when you draw a comparison with Zomato, for example, right? And I think that's possibly, becomes a very strong reference point as soon as you start talking about platform, right? I think that's not just true for you. I think that's true for everybody, right? But I think when you look at any of these players, right, who are platform players, they essentially operate in a market which is massively democratized, right? You really can't tame that market, right? If you talk of Myntra, exactly. You talk of e-commerce, right? Exactly the same, right?
Yes.
But essentially, what all of these platforms aspire to do is build a certain position of ownership, right? Because they now have the distribution, right? Having a sorry 20%, 30% filled by their own brands, maybe more, right, gives them a very different kind of a power, right? And I think that each one of them aspires to sort of get to that at a certain point of time, right? Of course, they're restricted by laws and there are certain other complexities that exist. But if you really look at it, I think that's essentially where we're headed, right? D2C, for example, is another example, right? When you're talking about players that are coming up, right, valued at unicorns, for example, right, or getting closer to $1 billion valuation, massive traction, so on and so forth, right? Everybody wants to own the customer. You're already there as nurturing breeds, right? What I find, uh, you know, kind of confusing, is why, when you already have that leadership position, right, when you already have that recall, why get into a platform, right? Because I mean, everything is getting institutionalized, right? Everything is getting into a branded consumption play. There is a different kind of a trust that people want to put in a brand. Life becomes just so much more easier because I mean, see, for an individual to understand so many nuances about, say, for example, planting, I possibly do not have the time, right? I will need one partner who could do this for me, right? From buying to, then managing it, so on and so forth, right? Um, isn't this, I mean, aren't you cutting it in a different way? uh, what's your sense of it, right? Because eventually a lot of these players that are there, hyperlocal players, will get weeded out in the process, right? People will
Yeah.
shift to a nurture and green, or say some of your other competitors that are coming up, right? uh,
Yeah.
this seems to be a slightly uh, strange
Right.
um, mechanics for
Sure.
growth, right?
Sure.
uh,
Sure.
what's in it that we're missing?
So 3, 4 years back, we were growing comfortably. We were
Right.
doing 50, 60% growth year on year. But my hunger for sort of growth sort of started becoming bigger, and I realized I'm maza nahi aa raha life mein.
Sure.
I foreseed ki, nurturing green mein paisa uthate hain, make it
Right.
a big brand and sort of
Sure.
scale it. But somehow my culture at Nurturing Green has always been built from a bootstrapping thought processes.
Uh-huh.
I mean, from the team, from the accounts teams to purchase, they will be very
Sure.
frugal. They want to make money. End of the day, we only talk on free cash flow. There's no other bench metrics
Right.
which we talk on. So we thought, yeah, Nurturing Green को तो ना 1,000-2,000 crore बनाते हैं, double-digit profitable करते रहेंगे,
Sure.
and we keep growing that as an industry.
Right.
Can I take 40% of the market on the whole gardening? And like
Right.
houseplant is just 26,000. Overall, is more than 1,00,000+ crore. When
Sure.
I talk on balcony makeovers,
Sure.
I talk on landscaping, value
Right.
on demand, and so on and so forth. If I look at all the components together, it's a very big, large market. Can we sort of take a 30-40% market share of with Nurturing Green
Mhm.
as a brand? Somehow I felt we wouldn't be able to do.
Okay.
Maybe I was wrong. I was less sort of confident on our brand, but I thought,
Right.
yeah, uske liye I'll have to change the gears. I'll have to go back,
Sure.
raise money, do it in a different way of what we have done it for the last 8-9
Right.
years. Change करना पड़ेगा,
Right.
right? And I क्यों करना है? अगर 500 करो, 500 1000 करो, and you might raise money, and that at 100 crore with a double-digit EBITDA today, I have every investor on the uh, in the industry is ready to fund that sort of
Sure.
a business.
Right.
Uh, and so is the debt markets also. So we said,
Mhm.
usko usi tarah se grow hone dete hain. Don't
Mhm.
change the culture of that
Right.
around. And at the same time, as you said, hum kitna price conscious niche late jayenge, right?
Right.
At one point, you don't make money in a D2C if your AOVs are less than, let's say, 600-700.
Sure.
I mean, at least हमारी industry में ये होता है. So we realized that it's not possible to keep reducing it and keep increasing the product lines
Right.
over a period of time, right? I can't
Interesting.
have 10,000 SKUs around it.
Right.
So that's why we said इसको ऐसे बनाते हैं. Then we thought I was hungry because I said market तो बहुत बड़ा है
Right.
और impact लाना है. Nurseries तो जाते तो लोग अभी भी नर्सरी में और 26,000 crore का प्लांट्स तो नर्सरी से ले रहे हैं ना 25,000
Right.
के.
Right.
यार उनको तो पहले ठीक करें because that's where the people are going, right? I will have some shift of them going to, let's say, online or Nurturing Green, but how about the other 80-90% of the business,
Right.
we thought let's try and solve that. Plus,
Mhm.
over the last 10 years, I should have been with the industry. I've seen so many young entrepreneurs, so many of these farmers who became entrepreneurs. I feel they have such good talent in their life, and they don't make money out of it. They don't know how
Right.
to sell, right?
Right.
With today, there are registered 2.5 lakh nurseries in India, somewhere around 10 lakh, a million plus nurseries overall.
Right.
on not accurate numbers, just a ballpark things.
Sure.
And if they don't know how to sell,
Right.
right? And we want to today. My thought is also to upgrade them as a business, right?
Right.
Make them better. Agar 2 lakh ki sale, can I
Right.
take them to 7 lakhs? Right? Make their
Right.
lifestyle better. Groom them to better VM visual merchandise. How to sell their
Sure.
product better. And this whole journey. There's a Nurturing Green has a product called Roots, which is also a B2B product which we supply to the nurseries. Currently, we're
Right.
supplying 500 nurseries in India right now.
Interesting.
So जो हम प्रोड्यूस करते हैं उसमें जो ए ग्रेड होता है क्वालिटी वो नर्चरिंग ग्रीन पे जाता है.
Right.
उसका जो बी ग्रेड बनता है वो हम नर्सरीज को सप्लाई करते हैं. When I say B grade, which is also a decent quality
Sure.
compared to what you see, and we sell it to 500 nurseries. Right now, more and more nurseries are coming in our gamut who buy from us, and they tell to us कि सर हमें बिकवाना भी सिखा दो. So
Right.
we said, boss, let's be like a Zomato who gets you the order for a restaurant, but also through Hyperpure gets you the
Supplies.
Supplies also.
Yeah.
And we realized through Zamia and Roots, we should be able to do that and uplift the lifestyle of the sort of or the standards of the nurseries which are there, and which
Very
is better for
interesting.
the market. Yeah.
Very interesting. And I think I'll possibly, I think that'll give us a lot of questions for our future conversations, Anu, because I think when you want to sort of when you want to bring in such people on your platform, on a certain platform, right? I think it's very difficult to align them, right, to the common goal and common cause, right? And I think in India, at that level, when there are people who you want to sort of engage with, there is a massive resistance because there is that the
look
incentive
at Uber, look at Ola. Absolutely,
it's
they have massive resistance.
It's a lot of resistance, right? It just becomes difficult from for a variety of reasons, right? But listen, I think we're gonna reserve those questions for our next conversation, right? And hopefully we can have that soon. I'm gonna move into a bunch of other things, right? Now, when you talk of, for example, when you talk of greenery and when you talk of plants, you're not essentially only talking of, say, gifting and and sort of home decor and all of that, right? Now, a lot of this in the B2B environment, for example, is becoming so much more serious, right? I think for example, hospitality, right, is now very seriously looking at it, right? Landscaping, for example, has become just so much more important, right? You're looking at newer residential properties that are coming up. Builders, for example, very seriously thinking about all this, right? Now, all of this is becoming very, very significant, right? In the core offering of what they do, right? I mean, everybody wants to bring people closer to nature, right? What's happening on that front, right? How are those legs in your business playing out?
So B2B in the US, landscaping specifically is a $80 billion market. In India, there are no set sort of reports, but it's somewhere on the upwards of somewhere around 25 to $30 billion, including Mali, landscaping, DMRC, metros, etc., whatever you see plants around, right? And that's huge. This is what we said here in the whole game of the business, in the whole food chain. You start with, let's say, gifting, you went to decor, and the end goal was you capture landscaping. Because if you do that, then you're really big. And we started doing that in 2017. By 2019, before COVID, we've sort of burned 2 crores of money because we were in too many places doing too many stuff. So we did Amitabh Ji's house, we did Kapil Dev's house, we did Dimasi's project, we did Pranav Roy, Suresh Raina, and many, many more celebrities across. We did Ultra HNI landscaping, which is good premium projects. But we realized that हम बहुत सारी चीजें बहुत जल्दी कर रहे हैं. So हमने एक अपना फोकस रखा है 100 crore जिस दिन नंबर टच करेंगे उस दिन लैंडस्केपिंग डिवीजन शुरू हो जाएगा. Everything is ready, the brochures are already made. हमने उसको पीछे भी रख दिए हैं. And we said, let's do something from a focus as a thought. Gifting or decor or house plant को पहले बड़ा कर लें. Because 100 crore की से यार 20% 20 crore का एक जुआ खेलना है, एक नया प्रोजेक्ट लगाना है, and you want to play something big, you can do that. Today, that sort of can jeopardize our sort of existence also. So we got back with losing this money because we hired a lot of teams. There were designers, there were architects, there were landscapers which we hired, etc. So if you want to do Amitabh Ji's house, you need to have all of them around. Your merchandise was being sorted across. But again, we realized we were not able to scale. We were doing too many things at too less. हमारी औकात ही नहीं थी अभी तक सब करने की. So I think that's where we are. We're very, very sure that that's the next milestone we want to do. It's very clear in my head what are the dates we want to get into those landscaping divisions. And once we do, we'll
Interesting.
do it big and really big in that numbers.
You know,
That's where the big pie is.
and when you say that, I'm just thinking of possibilities, right? I think those are absolutely phenomenal possibilities, and I think that's a strong cash flow business that we're kind of talking about, right? And I think honestly, not a lot of businesses enjoy that, such significant, motivated client base, and second, cash flows, right? I think something that has been a constant point of debate in within the startup ecosystem or digital businesses, right? That you continue to burn for such a long time, right?
Yes,
I think customer motivation, I find it to be the biggest of all, question mark areas, right? Or areas with a big question mark, right? Here, that's not really the case, right? I think it's just the quality of service which will keep people engaged, right? I mean, I'll give you an example. My mother, for example, is into bonsai, and she's been doing it for last almost 40 years, and super excited about it, right? I mean, I think once you're hooked on, right? Your LTVs are very,
yes,
very different, right?
yes,
And I think so are your spends, which is very interesting
absolutely.
for, I think, a brand out there.
Yes.
Anu, I think no conversation can today end, or not be complete without talking of tier two and tier three, right? What's been your experience there, right? I mean, what kind of a shift are you seeing there? Because that's where the masses are there, and that's larger India.
Yes.
In many ways, right? COVID has had a significant impact. It's reduced the arbitrage that existed, information arbitrage that existed. Instagram, for example, I mean, with digital availability of products, or D2C, for example, is now kind of thriving. Aspiration is peaked. People want similar things that they see, right? In a tier A city, which used to be available, is not a limitation anymore, right? What's your sense of it? What are you seeing in a tier two, tier three market? I mean, are you seeing a massive adoption there, a disruption there happening where people are adopting all of this as a part of life, a way of life? Are these markets that could still do better?
Not yet for us, Ashu. I think so when we were offline, of course, we were just in the metro, so we had no
Sure.
exposure to the tier two, three cities, right?
Right.
With the digital sort of and going online, we gave us this opportunity to go to these 45, 50,000 pin codes
Sure.
across India with Amazon and our D2C sort of giving that power.
Right.
But we still see 80, 85% of the business coming from these 10 cities
Interesting.
as of today. But the good part is, every day when I look at the numbers and I look at the cities, I find a new city every time which I have not even heard of.
Nice.
So Barabanki se leke,
Oh wow.
somebody ordering from Unnao, Barabanki se, somebody Nasik se, some 30 kilometers away, some city. And that's something which is promising for us. We get
Interesting.
a lot of customers from Jaisalmer se bhi aage wala city, and I look at, for example, Bombay is a big city for us. Navi Mumbai is obviously bigger
Right.
and equal, but we also get orders from Panvel and now from even for Badlapur also. And
Interesting.
then there is somebody sitting in Badlapur who is also ordering plants, right? So
Right.
I have not even heard of. So that's a good promising thing for us, that people want that adoption. But if you ask me, in the scheme of things, in the lower hanging fruit for us is still sort of capitalize on the
Theory
existing
market.
top 10 cities, and
Interesting.
then practically, and the good part with digital is, yeah, you can reach out to all of them
Right.
simultaneously. So you just have to go into their own languages, which we're trying to sort of communicate.
Sure.
We started a Hindi channel for a Hindi audience. We now
Interesting.
realize that a lot of South Indians don't understand our channel when we do on
Right.
YouTube. So we have
Right.
Hindi and English now, both, which are sort of scaling up.
Interesting.
Good time on the YouTube from a content perspective. So I think building that community is very important, is what we've seen, and digital gives you the power to build that massive community, which offline, we had a hard time sort of doing it.
I can imagine it's a very difficult one. But Anu, what's happening on the AOVs, the cohorts, right? How have they changed, right? Because in an offline avatar, it's very difficult to sort of track them and and maintain that consistency, right? Here you can continuously communicate, you can offer them discounts, right? And you can kind of stoke spur buying, right? What's happening on that front, right? Would love to understand that.
Yeah, we're still doing A/B testings almost on a daily, monthly basis with different
Mhm.
data sets, different
Okay.
people, different combination, different offerings to the customers,
Right.
and different channels and different marketplaces also, I've realized, behave differently. For example, an Amazon AOV is very different from an NG online, our website AOV, versus a home center AOV versus our own store AOV.
Sure.
Right. So, for example, with with Amazon, we have realized that people need value.
Mhm.
They need 300 rupees ka plan chahiye yaar. Hame na dikhao 2000 rupees ka, I don't want that.
Right.
Give me a set of three for 999 is what my sweet spot is, and that's where I realized if you want to increase the AOV, let's do combos around it. So you see
Interesting.
some of our best sellers on Amazon are now combos,
Right.
but with the value inbuilt in them. People
Mhm.
want 3 plans, 4 plans, 5 plans at 1,000 rupees, 1,500
Right.
rupees, and that's what we're trying to sort of do. That how do we beautifully package it, reduce the logistic cost, etc. for the Amazons of the world. On
Right.
our website, of course, the AOVs are very good. There are somewhere around 900,000. Uh, it's sort of good enough for us to sort of keep acquiring customers and keep scaling up. We're also, of course, trying to take it to 1,500 because that's a real great spot for us to scale it up. At 1,500
Right.
AOV, even my, COGS at a cost is at 35, 40. We spend 500 rupees acquiring a customer. Also, we can keep doing it for infinite time, right?
Mhm.
From the online perspective, retail behaves again very differently. Ashu, I think our stores, since we control the whole environment, our AOVs are really, really high. Our AOVs at our store at studio was at 3,500, right, which is crazy enough high. And
Right.
with the home centers of the world, it's somewhere around at 1,200,
Right.
which is also again quite huge and good enough for us to sort of
Right.
smoothly sort of run out the cost. It's only at the Amazon you can't do the mistake because the AOVs are really less. So
Right.
you screw up on your few of the percentages and you're just gone in the profits.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I think we were comfortable in terms of the AOVs.
Interesting. Anu, how's the CAC behave for you, right? Because that's a that's always a big question area, right? How has that played out for you? I mean, does this? How do you calculate it for example, your purposes, right? And I'm
Yeah.
purely talking digital environment here. Would love to
Yes.
understand that, right? Because this is not something which is. I mean, there is a set of it where there could be a consistent play that essentially means that the cohorts are going to be extremely strong, and then of course there are some who would possibly buy it. It's more of being, it's more of flirting with the category, right? Are
Yes.
not necessarily consumers, right? But eventually could mature into it, right? How are CACs behaving for you?
I think the world knows, Ashu, that the CACs will keep going higher and higher with the Googles and Facebooks of the world taking up the VC's money. 40% of VC money goes into
Right.
funding Google's and Facebook's turnovers, and we realize
Uh,
that should not be the long-term sort of thing for us. So
sure.
we have two parts on calculating our CAC. One is the total spent across the platforms online on acquiring a customer versus total acquired customers.
Right.
Second is the how do you remarket or bring a customer using content as a philosophy.
Interesting.
We realize in the next 3 to 5 years we should hook or acquire customers the way Zerodha does it, probably. So have a very strong content play. I
Right.
love how Nitin is still the torchbearer for Varsity, and he keeps putting a lot of great content, gets
Right.
real virality across it. So we want to, and since our industry has a very knowledge is a big problem. So if Ashu wants to buy a plant, he wants to refer to a content which is trustworthy, and
Right.
that's where we want to build this community across who will keep
Mhm.
buying from us over a period, because we have
Interesting.
seen that, and you gave an example of your mother. 40 years is the LTV. Like people once hooked to plans, they keep buying it,
Right.
right? And they keep doing it, they keep spending, and we've seen that irrational behavior, just like you see it for smokers. Uh, we practically see it for for
Right.
for gardeners. That they even they don't have space at home and they still keep buying plants,
Right.
right? And that is
Extremely.
something we have very yes, and that's what we realize that we can sort of capitalize on that
Right.
uh, if we are able to sort of do with content. So content as of now has a very higher CAC because of course we're still building content. It's been
Right.
almost a year of building a content. We didn't see traction in the first 6 8 months. It's only now that we're seeing 1 million+ impressions on a daily
Right.
basis coming on different platforms for us,
Right.
and we're seeing traffic churning out. But that's one part of it. Amazon and Facebook, yeah, we spend 350 to 400 रुपए का customer acquire होता है हमारे पास.
Mhm.
That's what the general thought trend is. We practically on the first purchase don't make a lot of money across it. I mean,
Mhm.
and we're sort of very pessimist that we'll ever make money. The way industry is going, the bids will go up and the CAC will go up through Google's and Facebook.
I think an honest confession of a founder, right? It's always no. I think. So I kind of agree with a lot of those points, right? And I particularly like the approach that you're sort of taking with content, right? Because I think that also sort of, which also brings me to the D2C side of things, right? Because there's a very different ownership that you're building to the entire structure, right? You're actually building a direct connect with the consumer. The consumer can actually now ask as many questions, raise as many points, but there's a certain affinity that they build with you. I think that is just so much more unique, uh, to the brand in many ways. Traditional brands were never geared to do that, and I'm sure you are in a unique position, right? Given that you've been doing it for the longest time, you have these very significant partnerships which are there on the ground. This just helps you establish a very different kind of a credibility, right? Anu, of course, I have a question on D2C, right? But before I do that, particularly, right, and especially I want to understand the transition that has happened for you. I'd love to understand how is competition coming up, because this is a space where we've seen a bunch of players come up, and they're fairly aggressively now kind of marketing, right? What's your sense? I mean, until some time back, we essentially knew just of one particular brand which occupied mind space, which was nurturing greens, right? You were
Right.
essentially the leader in the pack, right? Ogao, for example, has come up, and a bunch of others have now kind of come up. They're doing amazing packaging, communication again, right? What is that doing to you, to your customer
Right.
base? Is that dividing the customer base, or is this good for the industry, because it's creating awareness? It's basically going to help the practice to get more institutionalized much faster, right? How do you see it? How do you visualize uh, this entire thing uh, playing out?
So we're very, very happy that there are players who are getting recognized. So Bugao recently raised 15 crores in
Hmm.
Series A, which is sort of a validation for the industry and for them saying, this
Sure.
is working out. There are
Right.
certain matrices which says, okay, chalo, this can be scaled up, right? So
Sure.
VCs are getting into it, which I'm very happy saying, I
Hmm.
want more and more industry, more people to, because it gets
Sure.
easier for us to hire more, right?
Right.
More easily. It gets for a customer to get to know, okay, what is the difference then? So
Right.
once they start to compare a 600 rupees plant versus a 400 rupees plant, they say, "यार, 600 ही ले लेते हैं, वो ज़्यादा अच्छा है." Right? So
Right.
comparison starts coming in. And for
Mhm.
us, for the last 10 years, the biggest moat has been our supply chain and our sort of quality.
Right.
And that's why we don't buy from outside. So all of these guys have been currently buying from the local growers or the local
Right.
nurseries. We have in cumulative total of 45 acres in production house,
Mhm.
which is all controlled by us in terms of
Okay.
every seed which sort of is sown. We know when it has to be sort of sent to the stores.
Sure.
So this way is, we control a lot of quality checks, which is very tough in this industry, sort
Hmm.
of to do it till date.
Right.
Um, and this is one sort of barrier or sort of advantage which we will get
Hmm.
across around from once we will scale it up.
Hmm.
But I mean, if you don't get a competition, then there's no such category actually exist, is it?
Sure.
Right. So
Good way to
I'm
look at it.
happy that there are people coming in, and
Right.
also good part is there are a lot of new founders. Uh, you know, so recently there's this guys from IITs and IM and ISB sort of started doing this.
Right.
And these are the guys also now looking at this as a category, right?
Right.
Otherwise, they want to go into consulting, or second option is going to
Right.
FMCG. Now, if they want to start up and they want to get into this industry, is something which is sort of a validation for the industry itself.
Interesting. Interesting. I know, the D2C question that I want to ask you, right? So, essentially, ever since you've been building this, right? Uh, you know, uh, we've discussed this, right? It's been a fragmented market. Last 2 years, it really sort of, brought in a very different kind of a surge in online sales, right? Now, you were essentially always built as a mix of both, right? But more focused on the physical side of this, right? And
Yes,
possibly the teams were essentially designed that in that
yes,
form and way.
yes, yes,
Um, how have the last 2 years been on the team front of it, right? Because in a
yes,
D2C environment, it requires a very different kind of a mindset. It requires very different kind of, say, communication
yes,
strategy, branding strategy.
yes,
The skill set
yes,
is very different, fundamentally,
yes,
right?
yes.
How's that shift been for you, right? Last 2 years, for example, how's the team shaped up? Is this more digital heavy going forward? It's going to be digital more. It's going to be more digital heavy, or it will eventually balance out, right? As say things get to normal. it'll get balanced out, where you could have an omni-channel
Sure.
or a team which is comfortable with those aspects, right? While of course, what's happened in the last 2 years? I mean, how the skill set requirement shifted and changed in the last 2 years? I'd love to understand that.
Right. So we, as you said, we were primarily an offline brand. 2011,
Right.
when we started, there was no Amazon, Flipkart, D2C exist,
Right.
right? So the only way to go out to the customers was offline. And we became an offline brand because that was supposed to be. 2017-18, we started realizing that the world is going digital. Till then, we have invested a lot in terms of the tech, in terms of backend. So for me,
Right.
I'm always been a very tech sort of enabled guy, in terms of I
Right.
always believe that tech can solve every problem in the world, or every part of the business sort of can be made more efficient using technology. So we
Sure.
were the first world brand to sort of get ERPs in our industry, right?
Interesting.
Today, nobody, even some of the top brands we're talking about, nobody has ERP enabled in terms of sale forecast or predictions. Today, we know
Hmm.
how much agglomerates to be sown, which will come out after 12 months,
Right.
and
Interesting.
what's going to be the quantity around it,
Right.
basis on the data which we've sort of gathering for the last 10 years. And that has sort of helped us become, initially by 2016, 17, a digital enabled sort of a company.
Right.
But 2018, 19, it sort of took a complete shift, and COVID sort of just threw this on a different paradigm, which means
Right.
that there's nothing discussion happen except being a digital first.
Right.
So जो new launches होते हैं वो भी digital first thought से किए जाते हैं. तो colors कैसे होने चाहिए, which will
Right.
look good on a camera. To every campaign which is built is first thought कि वो social media और D2C के banner पे कैसे लगेगा, and
Right.
then वो हमारे store और offline में कैसे उसके banners लगेंगे,
Display होगा.
physical one. So
Interesting.
everything has sort of shifted digital first. I think next 3 months we will actually surpass in terms of also the major contribution of a business now coming from online. So
Interesting.
which means we are a digital company, because then we will be talking 60% of the revenue coming from digital.
Nice.
So we are thinking all digital, and we're very, very bullish on D2C for sure. I mean, of course, hard. I mean, so many people coming in, it's gonna get tougher
Right.
to get techies, to get performance management guys, uh, to get the right bids. It's gonna, but you've got to be creative and innovative to sort of
Absolutely.
reach your customers in a more frugal and cheaper way. That's still, as a cultural part of it, has been inbuilt at Nurturing Green. So हम
Interesting.
Amazon पे ऐड डालते हैं, बट एक कॉस्ट का लिमिट है कि भाई 25% ऊपर नहीं जाएगा चाहे जो हो जाए, राइट? सो और एक ROS होना चाहिए, is what's the benchmark when we sort of keep looking at the ads also, or the spends also across. And I talk to a lot of my friends and say, we have ROS of 0.5, and I go, मतलब you, for every 1,000 rupees you're sort of, you're spending, you're doing a sale of 500 rupees. I don't understand this maths,
Right.
and I don't want to get this scale around it. So I think that's a good part, and I'm very happy that we didn't start up in 2017, 18 as a business, because then everybody was thinking that way.
Right.
Since we started in 2011, this was so inbuilt into our Mali also, to a purchase
In the
head, also
DNA.
to in our DNA, to a CFO कि यार अब सिर्फ कैश फ्लो पे बात होती है, फ्री कैश फ्लो तो मुझे ग्रोथ के नंबर ही नहीं दिखाने, वो फैसिनेटिंग GMV की बात ही नहीं करनी, बिकॉज इट्स और धंधे में एंड प्रॉफिट अकाउंट में पैसे कितने आए ये बता दे, जो FD में जाने हैं या जो स्टॉक मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट होने हैं वो कितना है. So I think
Interesting.
that is a great sort of shift.
Tell me this, right? But tell me this, right? I mean, gone are those days, in the sense that now, 70-80% of your sales will eventually sort of come from online. I think you will have to eventually get into the same brace of sorts, right? Because see, at the end of the day, it's about creating that recall, right? If you're not there, you're selling an experience, right? If you're not there,
Yes,
somebody else will go out and do that, right? That essentially means
absolutely.
you'll have to change that mindset. I mean, there has to be a shift
Yes,
which has to come, because like you
sure.
said, I mean, we're not talking about a customer which is going to only buy it for that moment, right? We're possibly talking about
Yes,
a motivated
yes,
customer,
yes,
which is
yes.
going to pay out over a much longer period of time, right? With higher LTVs and so on and so forth, right? Does this require you to, I mean, restructure the DNA? I don't know if that's even possible, right? But does that become important in the entire scheme of things?
I mean, that's an interesting thought process, Ashu, which sort of is running with us in the board also.
Sure.
That do we change this DNA for thinking about profitability as a matrix?
Right.
And the more and more podcasts I look from Sridhar sir and Nitin from Zerodha, I'm sort of a mentality that I don't want to change that.
Right.
Right. Because end of the day, the idea is to create business is about creating profitability for the
Sure.
creating wealth for the stakeholders.
Right.
And if you don't do it in a short run, mid run, I mean, in the long run, everything is dead. So I can't go to the
Right.
investor saying, after 30 years, we'll create a behemoth, which will be a sort of $1 billion. Now, I believe in creating sort of businesses which are sustainable and scalable.
Right.
I think that's what my philosophy is, and I don't want to change that. Of course, I want to push the teams to innovate and think to find out newer ways to reach out to our customers. For example,
Mhm.
content is one good way we're trying to reach out to them at
Right.
scale. How to up their game in terms of quality. So if you look at for the last 9 years, we have every year upgraded our quality with the same
Right.
price. For the 8 years, we haven't increased our prices, by the way. And every time we have sort of upgraded our sort of quality, and we say what the customer needs, let's up that to the next level.
Exactly
उसको
my
5 star
point.
चाहिए तो 7 star do experience, and you give one of the best experiences and sort of.
But
So for
Anu,
example, हमारे yeah.
please go ahead. Please, sorry.
So for example, हमारे after sales में what we realized was that कई बार plants अच्छा experience नहीं होता है, so we have a
Right.
lifetime exchange warranty for a plant at 50%. So if your kid comes, Ashu, after 30 years, we'll change the plant also, no question asked,
Right.
at 50%, right? So that's the trust, and that's where we want that Ashu and his family should not go away from gardening, and
Right.
if the plant dies, he might. So he's saying, okay, कई बार पानी भूल जाओगे, कई बार आप travel कर रहे होगे, you'll miss it, you might
Right.
kill a plant. And then we'll change that plant, no question asked, on a 50% exchange policy, right?
Interesting.
And these are some of the ways we're trying to figure out how do we engage with the customers and build that
Right.
trust with them.
Mhm.
And instead of just saying, यार हर बार कैंक बढ़ाते रहो, 400 हो गया, 600 हो गया, 800 हो गया, 1000 हो गया.
I know that's a. I think you give me points for a very interesting discussion going forward, right? And I'm gonna reserve that for our next conversation. Towards the end of our conversation, at least in this particular leg of our discussion, I know you've raised a couple of rounds, right? You have some very very good marquee, celebrated, investors, right, on the board who've chosen to be part of your journey, right? Who've chosen to be part of this journey, supported you in the cause, right? Because they're possibly self-motivated in many ways. This also becomes, in a way, a possibility for them to contribute back, right? What happens in an environment where, for example, you've existed the way you have, right? And it's a very difficult environment, right? How has that journey been, right? I'd love to understand that from that. And you were possibly, like I said, right? You were one of the earlier ones who started out, right? You created a category which not a lot of people can boast of, right? They support you in that. And now it's kind of coming to fore, right? In terms of digital adoption, people going out and buying, right? How has that relationship been? Has that been a difficult one? Has that been a happy one? Or it's been
Mhm.
a khatta meetha, this thing eventually getting towards a sweeter
Yes.
end?
Yes.
How has that been? I'd love to understand that.
So we raised a first angel of 70 lakhs in 2011 when I started up. Due to bunch of great guys I've sort of known. I have sort of one of the most khatta and meetha sort of association with them. I was a 22-year-old naive guy when I started up, right?
Right.
So I had a lot of false perception of the worldview of this whole things
Right.
was very different. Of course, I've matured. I've learned a lot in the whole journey.
Right.
Today, we are at a place where we have a lot of acquisition offers from the Thrasios of the world. So one thought is you sell it and sort of,
Sure.
I mean, our first angels will make somewhere around 50x in terms of the investments
Right.
if we sell, right? Versus, why don't, so we were also thinking in the next 2 years, we probably can buy back the shares,
Right.
right? And give them a decent 4, 5, 6x exit,
Sure.
7x exit.
Sure.
Or, we were also looking at saying, why don't we start paying dividends to them?
Right.
And because that's what has happened across the world, right? So
Right.
that's what business I have. It's only in the last 10, 15 years you learn that it's a पैसा सिर्फ VC, एक छोटे VC को बड़े VC से और बड़े VC से IPO जाके ही होता है. Until SoftBank is the mother of or the father of all the end game की जिस दिन SoftBank आ जाएगा उस दिन सबका गंगा नहा लेंगे सब लोग. And everybody makes money, but the real way of making money is also these ways. We are profitable. Yeah, we should be 20% in EBITDA in times to come.
Right.
So if at a 20 crores in free cash flows, we should give 20% of the dividends to them. They are happy lots, enjoying the name in the market, as well as getting their money back. I think they should not ask for more. But yes, I am being very happy with Vijay. I think it's been a different experience. I got funding when I was, I took a lift from him from his home to, or from the Paytm office to his home.
Right.
Just crossing, I said, I went to pick up Shivani, which is she's my wife and she works with Paytm. And I just, met Takra gaya, Vijay and said, this is the conversation. He said, Aja baith ja. I gave the keys to Shivani, and the journey was till from Noida Sector 5 to GK. I raised the money from him, and he gave the check when we reached home. And he's been supportive, of course. He's a pioneer. He's a great guy.
Right.
I think one of the best guys in the startup world I've ever met. And really happy he never pokes me. I mean, of course, he gives me that freedom to decide what is good for the organization,
Sure.
and what's good for the organization is good for him.
Mm-hmm.
But the relation has been good enough. We are still thinking, contemplating in all these three directions what is to be done.
Right.
Hopefully, we will sort of get them the exits. It's time for the first guys. They've been long enough with us, patient enough with us. I haven't seen such patient capital for almost 8 years, 9 years. People, sort of invest. I don't do it. My maximum cap is 5th, 6th year. I start looking at, either some part of exits or partial exits as an angel. So hats off to them, but I will make them money for sure. That's
a good one, right? In the sense that that responsibility, I think, is so much more important, right? I think that also creates that liquidity, right? I think that confidence and liquidity, which is just so much more important in many ways. Anu, towards the end of our conversation, what are the next 2 years like? I'd love to ask you a 5-year question, but I think with just two dynamic times, right? I think 2 year makes stands more relevant, and will possibly be closer to reality. And what will be that advice that you would want to give to many founders out there, right? I mean, you like I said, right, you've been a category creator. You saw an opportunity in something that not a lot of people did. I mean, I have had the opportunity of knowing you for last 7-8 years, right? Ever since you possibly started just about that district, right? And I remember instances when people used to question you, right? Why are you even doing this, right? How large is the category? And there was like a bunch of incredulous people who were always around, right? But what is that advice that you want to give out, right? Also, that you've been a single founder, right? You've been at it pretty much by yourself, right? Possibly an incredible team, but very little when it comes to leadership, right? Or sounding board that you had, right? These two questions, I'd love you to answer them one by one.
Don't be a single founder if you want to start up. It's hard. It's really hard. So Zamia is with 3 co-founders that I'm doing, because I know I can't do it again now, the same journey. And today, of course, we want to do it really, really fast than what we did with Nurturing Green. But I think for the first question, I think for the entrepreneurs and the startups guys, I think this is our time. And for the startups, this is the time. And for India, this is the time. I think the next 3-5 years going to see super hyper growths in the businesses. I think this has happened in every part of every adversity which has hit us, humanity ever. So be it a Spanish flu or the Great Depression or 2001 bubble or the 7-9 bust. I think every sort of such adversity sort of gave 3-5 years of exponential growth for people who were ready to take on that sort of journey. And for us, I think this is where our last 10 years will come into play, because they have gave us such a strong foundation for us to know what not to do and what to do in things. So I think we are all in for a poker table. For me, I think I've put in all in sort of a thought on this next 2-5 years. We'll see a hyper growth coming in for us, surely. I'm very confident that it's not going to be a reverse trend post-COVID. And it's sort of the rally will just go on. The
Right.
stock markets will hit, Sensex hits a lakh for sure, and even 1.5 lakh. Hopefully, I think 3 years we will see that sort of a jump. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're not an entrepreneur, I think this is the time. All my siblings now are entrepreneurs.
Wow.
My elder sister, being in doctor for almost 20 years, gave up, and now she's an entrepreneur. My elder brother, 15 years, gave up, now into entrepreneurship. And I think this is the time for, if I mean, no better reason than COVID to say, yeah, naukri chodo and do for
Interesting.
us. So yeah, I think I am very bullish on Indian markets and especially on startups.
And your advice to founders, Anu? I mean, of course, you gave one, right? That don't start alone.
Yes.
But
Yes.
anything else that you wanna of course spell out, right? I think
My experience has been very different, Ashu, from the new age entrepreneurs. I think probably I'm old now. I'm 35. I'll be 35 now, I think, and I see 22, 23-year-olds starting up. But one thing for sure, it's going to be hard ride, but it's going to be worth it. So, you have to be perseverant around. You will have naysayers coming in. You will have people sort of booing you down that it's not going to work it. But I
Right.
think if you're passionate about what you're doing, if you're perseverant about it, if you now know how large the markets can be, if you choose the right problem to solve, I think, sky is the limit for every entrepreneur in India right now. And
Super.
I foresee also, millions of entrepreneurs in tier 1, 2 cities now coming up. And because they have got an equal platform now, they
Right.
also see Shark Tanks India than I at the same time, and as I do, they have access to internet. So I think the playing field is all level up. So
I think
you will see a lot of them coming up
the
also.
enthusiasm that we're gonna see with one such show, I think is gonna be phenomenal. I think we're just at the cusp of,
Yes.
becoming a very massive product economy, right? I think people are
Yes.
getting a lot of those ideas, and I think the good part is that such shows bring in, you know, are essentially, they show that light at the end of the tunnel, right? That there are people who are out
Yes.
there to sort of fund it, and I
Yes.
think just to sort of one point that you highlighted, Anu, I think just so much more important, right? Persistence. Very interesting conversation with somebody, and he said that he has 1,000-day rule, right? And I personally have kind of absorbed that, adopted that, right? That whatever you do, you be at it for 1,000 days, right?
Absolutely.
I think that just motivates you and keeps you at it, right? Which is just so much more
Yes.
important. Persistence is,
Yes.
I think, massively underrated, but I think just so much more important in the entire scheme
Yes.
of things. Anu, thank you so much for doing this. Loved every bit of this conversation, right? I couldn't have asked for a better conversation starting the New Year's. And I think it's always fun to speak with somebody who's been a category creator, like I said, right? And for you to see this industry evolve, my sense is I think last 2 years have really shaped up the market in a very different way. I think India looks different as a market. Our
Yes.
aspirations are different. The way we want to spend, the way we want to be responsible towards, you know, ourselves, people around nature, I think is just shaping up markets in a very different way. Our priorities are in a very different way, which is phenomenal, right? And I think
Yes.
education, with whatever government initiatives that are coming in, I think is making more and more people, responsible citizens, right, to contribute to that cause. And I think that's a
Yes.
strong, solid foundation to have. We couldn't have asked for better setting and timing for many good things to happen and start happening in this country, right? Anu, thank you so much for being a part of it. I loved every bit of it, like I said.
Most welcome.
Looking forward to have you with us much sooner. Wish you a very, very happy new year once again.
Same to
And
you.
we wish that Nurturing Green continues to be a leader brand in the category, much larger numbers, much larger stakeholder value creation.
Yes. Hope so. And look forward for the next session.
Take care.